Now coming to the business case on empowering user engagement via personalization and analytics. This is driven forward by the company Ripple. We are providing content recommendations and analytics to increase the value of online content by addressing both personalization and analytics. So personalization to recommend the right content to the right user segments, and analytics to create the right content based on the user interests and engagement analytics. So this should overall increase the content value. So from this business proposition, there's both personalization needed, what you see on the left side, personalized suggestions, and interest analytics. And these make use of FREME services. So for example, the entity lists that you see here or further information is generated by deploying the FREME e-entity service, and that's then used for the deployer of Ripple to get interest analytics about the users of their site. With this, we are at the end of a presentation part of this webinar. I just have, before starting with the QA, a few more slides. First, to say what type of area are we looking especially feedback on. We want to know about the technical design of a framework. If you think that this is useful for you, so do any shortcomings or very strong points. Then about the characteristics of existing e-services. So again, as a reminder, there are e-services which are part of a framework, like e-link to get additional information, like e-internationalization to cover certain formats, and there are others outside the framework. But we're interested in feedback on both. Then very important, the relation to other frameworks and platforms. There are many of these around. So as you have seen with the example of DKT, if one relies on certain standards for the enrichment workflows, it's possible in a light way to build synergies. So we are very interested in that as well. We're interested in applications you want to build in this framework and in new services. You may want to contribute to this framework, or you meant to hook on in a light way, as I just mentioned, with relation to the DKT project. Our vision is shown here on this slide. A vision for the future of a framework. We currently are developing the services that have been described in the webinar: e-entity, e-link, e-internationalization, e-terminology, e-translation, e-publishing, which are leading to various killer applications in the 4 business cases we are driving forward. But we also see the potential that FREME building blocks can be used to develop further e-services. This has a vertical perspective that third parties will leverage the portfolio of e-services, but our horizontal perspective that third parties will take advantage of the open source framework to graft new generic e-services that are agnostic to specific industries and not specific to the sector. Finally, before starting the QA session, just to let you know that this framework is driven by a group of people. I'm just presenting here, but there are key participants from the several partners in the area of various business cases. What you see here, the slides, language technology and data technologies and the business opportunities, the framework in general, the related DKT project. And we hope also that the contact details here will help you to get in touch about endeavors that are not only about moving the framework forward, but also that are in some of these areas. With that, I'm closing the presentation part. I go back to the feedback slide, and I will now also put the URIs of the presentation into the IRC chat, so that you can then, after the presentation, look easily into the slides and also look into the examples which are linked from the slides. With that, maybe Let's look at the chat. I see the first question from Jorge saying, in example 1, you use DBpedia, which other data sets are available? I saw that Milan already gave an answer in the IRC, but maybe Milan, you want to expand on that?
Well, yes, thanks, Felix. Well, at the moment, we support 6 datasets. Of course, the core dataset is DBpedia, but we support also the Cordis FP7 dataset, which can be used to spot project names in free text. Then the ORCID datasets, which provide digital identifiers for researchers. The ONLD dataset from the North Carolina State University Library, the WIAF dataset, the geopolitical ontology dataset from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States. So these are the 6 main datasets that we support at the moment. Of course, there is an option that you upload your own dataset, your own ontology, and then use this dataset to perform entity spotting and linking against your dataset. There is a link in the chat how you can actually upload your dataset and then use this dataset to perform entity linking.
Milan. Just one additional note. The FREME NER service, the development is driven by INFI, the partner INFI, which Milan is representing here on the call. That service is part of a framework, so it can also be used as is. So also this adaptability is something which you could get part out of FREME, the framework itself, when you use FREME NER. There are also other, like I mentioned, the DKT services and other services which may in the future be implemented related to named entity recognition. These not necessarily have the same type of adaptability, but one requirement is that to add them to the framework is that they create the same way of enrichment and content storage, so using NIF for content and some parts of enrichment and ITS for others, so that it's then easy to work with enrichment information across services. So at the moment I don't see any other questions on the chat. Maybe I missed something, but if not, the floor is also open for other people who are on the call who have not put themselves on the chat to ask questions. If there are no questions, I have a question to people on the call. As we saw on one slide here, there are already other projects looking into using this framework, like the German DKT project, and there are also a lot of existing frameworks and platforms. So I'm interested to see if people are on the call also representing such efforts, and if they would be interested to see if there could be an integration with what FREME is offering. And the integration could be twofold, really having as part of a framework additional service, but it could also be very lightweight if this NIF plus ITS output from other initiatives is supported, when the integration can be distributed like you saw in the DKT example. So for that type of feedback I'm interested to hear. But I see that Christian Lieske has also a question, but I didn't hear your voice. Yes, indeed. Maybe you could try again, or
I'll try again.
Oh yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, but please finish what you started with respect to other initiatives.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Well, let's see if there's somebody from our initiatives who has a thought on this. Oh, yeah, we have somebody. Jan Thompson, I guess. Yeah, representing the Link TV project. And you want to say something about this topic?
Yes, sorry. So my phone was muted. Yes, so maybe the LinkTV project, I think, has something similar, because it's, well, for the well, you know probably the other. So this is a it deals with annotated multimedia fragments, and also named entity recognitions from audio recognition and subtitle information. And I think this that led to also it was contributing to a standard, the multimedia fragment standard from the W3C, and it looked quite similar to this to your standards. So when you with these URIs, which just our unique identifiers of strings. So first question is: this is a kind of a standard you're using here, or is this just a, or you want to have this as a standard, or?
That's a tricky question. So NIF, I would say, is a community standard. So in the sense that there are various users. I think I'll give the floor in a second to Milan, who can say more about the long-term plans. But it's not a formal standard in the moment like the linked data fragment that you mentioned, or like ITS 2.0. But I think one way to move that forward, if there's an interest, would be to start just formal standardization. But maybe let's see if Milan has any thoughts on that.
Okay, so next question here. So we in the LinkTV project, we used also named entity recognition with Eurocom's NERD service. I think you use the same, right? So at least is this correct?
No, we don't use NERD. No, we don't use NERD.
I thought you would use it.
No, NERD is a wrapper around various existing services.
Sure, yes. Mm-hmm.
So one existing service is DBpedia Spotlight. We also provide in DBpedia Spotlight e-entity service, but the main service giving the adaptability and the data sets parameterization that we discussed is the FREME NER service. So that's, let's say, the own brew service and the main service which gives the functionality we need.
Okay. So I could be thinking of if there would be any kind of synergy between this annotations, multimedia annotations, which also follows the W3C open annotation model, and the FREME the FREME standard or FREME approach.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned open annotation model. There is ongoing standardization in that area, where the open annotation started as a community effort like NIF. It's now formal annotation going on for in the so-called web annotation model. One item we have, we haven't put that format now, but it's actually not a difficult item. I would claim is to convert the NIF format to the web annotation model.
Okay.
So as you say, it's a URI that's produced here. That's the main piece of information you need, and the other pieces, like the offsets, can also be produced using open annotation. The actual information, like something is identified as the entity, these URI types also, I think, can easily be integrated. So I think if this is a requirement to convert to the open annotation or the web annotation model, I think that if you think that would help users, I think that would be something relatively easy to achieve. I would say maybe as an output, the internal processing, I think to change that to open annotation, that would quite be an engineering effort. But to have this open annotation output to make the integration easier for people working with open annotation, I think that should be feasible.